A lot of moving parts today, and we know that the leader of the Syrian rebel group, HTS, has met with the Assad regime's outgoing prime minister to discuss transition. A caretaker prime minister has now been announced, Mohammed al-Bashir. What do you know of him, and what do you make of this effort to create a transition very quickly?
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. The period of transition is, of course, now very important in this era, and who will manage this transition was the main question. Now they have named Mr. Bashir as the caretaker, as head of the caretaker government. He was the head of the prime minister of the Salvation government, which ruled Idlib for a number of years now. So in that sense, it can be said that he has some experience. I don't know who he is going to name as ministers, but then everybody is wondering if the ministers that he will name will be only from the HTS, from Tahrir al-Sham, or from other groups also. Because as everybody is saying now, it's very important to have an inclusive government, an inclusive system, opposed to the one-man rule of Bashar Assad.
So, Ambassador, I want you to give me a sense about HTS, what your thoughts are. Given its historical background, it's got a more moderate messaging. We know that was a coalition of rebel groups that embarked on this offensive. What is your understanding of whether they see eye to eye?
Well, HTS was, it was a Salafist organization, Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra, but recently, what we are told that the HTS has become quite moderate, and it has changed its ways and so on. Now, this is good to hear, but of course, actions speak louder than words. So we have to see the implementation of what they are saying. Mr. Golani was quite moderate when he talked about embracing everybody in Syria, not discriminating against anyone. I mean, these are words that we want to hear in Syria, really, and it's very encouraging. But as I said, we have to see what happens in implementation.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to talk about Turkey's role and whether it greenlit this offensive, but importantly, whether Turkey has now positioned itself as the most powerful foreign force in Syria, and whether Turkey is in discussions with the rebel factions right now, and whether you can give us insight into this.
Well, Turkey is definitely one of the major actors in Syria by the virtue of geography and other historical and social relations. We have a 911 kilometers of common border with Syria. So Turkey is definitely a major actor. It has been so. And I think it will be one of the actors which will help shape Syria in the future. We have a stake in it, I mean, security-wise. And then Turkey is hosting about 3.5 million Syrians. And we want to have them back in their country in a safe environment. And then there will be the rebuilding of the country. So Turkey will be very central in all that. And there are definitely relations with the opposition forces of various shades. So I think these contacts that Turkey has with various opposition groups will be instrumental. I mean, it will help to shape Syria. Of course, it's up to the Syrians to decide on the future of their country, but they will need some help and some encouragement. And I think Turkey can play a positive role in that if it chooses to do so.
So, Ambassador, as we reported, there are many Syrians that are queuing up to try and get back into Syria that are currently in Turkey, and President Erdogan says that he'll open up the border. What's your stance on that? And then importantly, for Turkey as well, is to deal with the US-backed Kurdish militias. And what conversations are being had about these two main issues that Turkey has to contend with?
Well, these are the two main issues for Turkey regarding the Syrian crisis. Yes, now that Assad is gone, the Syrians are expected to go back. But I don't think that will happen overnight. I mean, there is uncertainty over there and even some concern as to what will happen in the future. So Syrians may choose to wait a little bit more to feel safe to go back. So it's up to what happens in Syria, which will accelerate the Syrians in Turkey and in other countries to go back to their hometowns. But this will take some time, I think, even though we have seen some people going back already, but they are not in their tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. That will take some time. As to the other issue, YPG is a terror organization. I mean, in Turkey's eyes, YPG is a terror organization. It is the extension of PKK in Syria, and it is after its own agenda to set a state-like structure, an autonomous structure, or whatever, a terror corridor, as we call it here. And Turkey said very clearly that we will not allow that. We will not allow YPG to set up a corridor just beyond our borders. So there has been some fighting, and this also goes for the Syrian National Army, the Syrian opposition, because the area, the territories that the YPG is trying to set itself on is Syrian territory. So not only Turkey, but the Syrian people are also very much against that, as I understand.
Just because we're running out of time, but hopefully you can get in your message as well. I want to talk about the IDF strikes into Syria right now. I mean, our latest reporting is about the naval fleet that has been destroyed. The Syrian naval fleet has been destroyed by Israel. We're also hearing that they're targeting military targets as well as chemical weapons. We know the IDF has moved into the buffer zone. What is your stance? What is Turkey's stance about the IDF's moves right now?
Well, Israel says, IDF says that they are targeting chemical weapons depots. I don't know. We don't know really. But they are trying to take advantage out of the situation in Syria. They have, as you know, declared null and void the 1974 disengagement agreement because the regime has changed. I mean, you do not make agreements with regimes, but you make agreements with states. So, and they went into Syria, occupying some villages and some strategic points. I mean, that is a blatant violation of international law, I think, and it's complicating the situation even more. Civilians are dying, and I think that will cause chaos in Syria. And I don't know if it is true, but there are news that among the targets that the IDF is hitting are land registration offices and also identity offices. I mean, this is something which is very dramatic in terms of having a country back to normal. And what IDF is doing is not really helping the situation, but complicating it much more.